Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Foley with Paladin Financial, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Paladin Financial Talk. Today, we're going to talk about navigating real estate, business ownership, and taxes. And what better person to have us on for today's show than the lovely Tony Shore. Hello, Tony.
Yeah, they call me Mr. Real Estate Ownership and Taxes. No, I'm glad you're here. I'm not an expert in these fields, but I know enough to be dangerous and ask a few questions of you. But I've been great. I've had a busy week just catching up after doing some traveling. I was in Nashville, of course, with you at a financial conference a few weeks ago, and then I had to go to Chicago to help set up a podcast studio for a mutual friend of ours, Rob Curvin, and so spent some time there in Naperville. Beautiful city. I don't know if you've ever been to Naperville, Illinois, but it's really nice. That's the nicest part of the Chicago area. And now I'm back and just trying to play catch up. How about you? How have you been?
Good. Yeah, we were talking before the show. I had surgery on the inside of my nose recently, deviated septum, got that fixed. So I feel like I have tailpipes in my nose. I can breathe. Kind of fun.
Nice.
So, but yeah.
Breathing is good. That's good.
It's not overrated.
Yeah.
But
when they said he's having work done on his nose, I thought, oh, finally. Whew. He found a good plastic. Oh, no, it was a deviated septum.
Sorry to
okay.
disappoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have kind of the twilight zone here today talking about real estate, business ownership, taxes. And today's show is more of a kind of a high-level overview of those three topics and how they might blend together. We're going to have a series this month on this topic. We have a guest speaker lined up and working on a second one. First one, Jay Dacey, who's been on with us a couple times before in the mortgage industry, so he'll have a lot of insights to share there as well. But yeah, some fun stuff. We're going to dig into how you might think about these three areas and how they can interrelate.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it, real estate and business ownership, but then you throw in a little tax talk as well, not confusing at all. A little sarcasm here. It sounds like we're going to cover a lot over the next few weeks on the show. And I understand we're going to have guests joining us from different industries, and that's always good. I love it when you and the Paladin team bring guests on from outside to talk about and tell real-life stories to help make some of these complex topics like these a little more practical for us.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways to be successful financially, and for people that have done really well along the way, you have the silent millionaires that have just worked a long time and been methodic. They've saved, they've lived under their means, they've amassed a good nest egg. And then you have others that have had success in real estate, whether that's rental properties or flipping or whatever approach they've taken with that. And then you have business owners. So there's different ways to skin the financial cat, if you will. But one of the things that comes up a lot in us working with clients and prospective clients, we hear the term a lot in the last couple years in particular, of passive income. So that ties into this as well.
Passive income. And, I know that real estate is one of the ways people can get into this whole thing. It's been a bit of a hot topic over the past decade with Airbnbs and people flipping houses. It allows people to be involved with real estate that may have never taken the leap otherwise. But now that Airbnbs are popular, I know a number of people who would have never considered owning real estate other than a house to live in, but they've bought in places, fixed them up, and then rent them out via Airbnb.
Yeah. So many different ways to get involved in real estate. And that's not something that we do at Paladin Financial, but we help our clients that are interested in those things think through how does this all tie into your comprehensive financial plan. But, Airbnb, you mentioned, is something that's really taken off over the last few years. A lot of people have been able to pick up passive income on a property that they weren't living in all the time. So that's become very popular, but a lot of ways of doing it. Directly purchasing rental properties, that people live in, whether that's an apartment building or single-family dwellings. You have investing in commercial real estate spaces, doing that directly. So you own a commercial real estate building. You have people that lease from you. But you can also apply that same approach through indirect investing, like through different types of REITs, real estate investment trusts. And some of those are more aggressive, more risky. Some of those are safer. So there's so many different approaches to that. But with passive income in general, the idea is I may or may not have a day job, but I have assets that are working for me to generate income, and I'm not necessarily actively involved in that business 24/7 like you would be if you had a flower shop. So rental properties are a good way you can establish a steady stream of cash flow. So many different approaches to this, but one of the things I caution people that haven't gotten involved in real estate is figure out first if you feel like you're a real estate person, and because it does take someone that has a unique skill set and they're willing to pay attention to those things. My wife and I would not be the best real estate people. We're focused over here in what we do in the financial realm, and that's a full-time job. We love that, but you understand if you're involved in real estate, you've got to stay on top of that over time.
Yeah, and I learned something from another mutual friend of ours, Bill Altman, who he and his wife have been involved in residential real estate and buying and flipping houses. His wife is in real estate and does that. But then they recently bought a building for their offices. And he thought, oh, I'll be the general contractor and I'll take care of this. But business real estate is a whole different ball game than residential. There's the laws and the permits needed. If it's for a business, it's completely different. So like you say, real estate, even whether it's commercial or residential, is tricky, and it isn't for everybody. And I've known people who have gotten into it thinking, hey, that looks easy. I'll buy this property and rent it out for an Airbnb. But you're right. You have to have a certain set of skills and knowledge and time and money to commit to it to make it work, right?
Yeah, and if you have the right skill set and you're comfortable with doing those things, you can save a lot of money and make the return on your investment even better if you're willing to get down there and fix the water heater and do some of those things yourself. And know thyself is a good reminder of that.
Know thyself. Well, I'm curious as how you're going to tie all these topics together. I mean, real estate, business, and taxes.
Yeah. So business ownership, being an entrepreneur, sometimes people use real estate and their success there, the cash flow there, to be able to fund other projects that they want to do. And that might be starting a business, or it could work the other way around. As one of our mutual friends you mentioned there a moment ago is in the financial world. They're an advisor. That's their full-time job, but they also do real estate, and that helps fund the other. So being an entrepreneur, different from being an employee, where you have a different set of responsibilities, and it's hard to turn that off if you're not careful. So again, know yourself, and are you comfortable with being a business owner and all the different things that you have to navigate through that process. But that also then creates some opportunities from a tax planning perspective, that things you can utilize if you have a business versus if you didn't. It opens up some different tax doors.
Sure, and that makes sense. Obviously, I think another thing, a real estate investor might purchase properties with the intention of renovating or flipping them for a profit, and then they develop valuable skills in construction, project management, which then could lead them to start their own contracting business. I've seen that happen too, and people combine their expertise in real estate with their entrepreneurial spirit, like you said, and then you can create a diversified portfolio of income-generating assets. I think you make a great point with that.
Yeah, diversification is a great point with that. That's why a lot of people do this, is they have their day job and they want to get involved in real estate to diversify and not be fully reliant upon that job, or they start a business for the same reason. So you end up with multiple income streams that can be created. So you have to juggle and balance those and make sure, depending on the size of those things, that you have the right people in place. If you're going to start up and own a restaurant, everybody knows owning a restaurant is a lot of headache and a lot of hours that potentially involved in that. So you got to have the right people that are running the day-to-day of the restaurant if you have another day job or you're involved in real estate. So you got to think through how all this is going to balance together. But with real estate and bringing in taxes, with real estate, you have different tax advantages that can come from that. And if you have a property for business purposes that you sell one property and transition that to another, you can do what's called a 1031 exchange, which is basically if I'm switching out for like-kind properties, apartment building A for apartment building B, and you have unrealized taxable gain that's incurred in that first apartment building, you can maintain that tax deferral when you move that into apartment building B if that's done properly, but there's a lot of rules that you have to follow in that process. Make sure you're doing that correctly. So understanding the tax code, what your deductions are, what kind of doors that opens, if you're owning vehicles, leasing vehicles, make sure that you're working with the right tax professional that understands what you're involved in. Sometimes that can be very niche. And so, for example, we work with some professional hockey players. They have a unique tax situation. They might play in 50 states in a year, and they've got to be careful about how that's navigated. So you want to work with a CPA that understands that niche. So
Yeah.
a lot to think about there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, taxes do play a role in everything we talk about on the show. I mean, if it has to do with finances or investments, taxes are always going to be a part of it, whether it's real estate or owning a business or your own personal finances. Taxes play a big part. And you need to make sure you're working with the proper, you might need a specialized real estate tax attorney to work with when it comes to dealing with that. It depends if you own rental properties. You want to make sure you're not making costly mistakes. And like you said, you want to minimize that tax burden. And I know that people might have questions about this, and you work alongside tax professionals at your office and attorneys to help with different types of things. So if our listeners need to talk to somebody about this, I know you can send them in the right direction. You can help them with an overall plan, but then refer them. I think it's really important that we do that. Why don't you let our listeners know before we go, Jeff, how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can give us a call. Our phone number is 651-842-8406. And a lot of what we do is what you mentioned there. We're kind of a financial concierge. We understand the big picture for your situation, planning for retirement, whether that's 20 years down the road or in the here and now, and making sure you're thinking through how all of these things interact together. And if you need help with tax planning, estate planning, whatever it might be, we can bring in our team, our strategic relationships, to make sure you've got the right people in place for what you're looking for help with. But give us a call if you'd like to sit down with us, either face-to-face or virtually, and come in for a complimentary second opinion on your situation and listen to some ideas that might be able to help you save money in taxes, and protect your wealth over time as you prepare for retirement.
Sounds great. Well, thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in to this episode of Paladin Financial Talk. And be sure to subscribe for future episodes. We're on all the major podcasting sites and YouTube, and we'll continue to explore strategies for building lasting wealth and achieving financial freedom. Jeff, one more time, how do our listeners get a hold of you?
You can call us at 651-842-8406, and we look forward to meeting with you.
All right, and that does it for today's episode of Paladin Financial Talk.